Her directive: ensnare and destroy human Envoy. His objective: uncover truth before Sira realizes. The man in the polished glass barely resembled the one who had first stepped onto the diplomatic stage. 12 years of interstellar negotiations had carved new lines into Rowan Blake's face, etching wariness into every glance, sharpening his eyes until they missed nothing. He adjusted his charcoal suit, the fabric whispering as he tugged at his cuffs, double-checking that the slim data jack embedded at the base of his neck was masked beneath his collar. He measured his breathing. 1, 2, 3. 4 minutes left until the Unity reception would begin, and already Solaris Spire's grand atrium pulsed with diplomatic energy. Director Sato's voice crackled in his ear, thin as a whisper behind Rowan's calm exterior. Our analysts confirm the arrival of the Vayari delegation. Any sign of their rumored envoy? Rowan scanned his reflection one last time, suppressing the trace of a smile that threatened to surface. Not yet, he murmured, his tone measured, professional, utterly unflappable. But if the reports are accurate, I'll meet her tonight. Keep your distance, but don't lose her, Sato replied, the warning threaded with trust. Rowan let the words settle, then let his gaze sweep outward, over the grand expanse of the atrium. Holographic banners rippled overhead, each bearing the sigils of 19 worlds, some old, some new, all vying for status. Delegates in formal regalia clustered beneath the banners, voices weaving a tapestry of languages, laughter, and coded tension. Rowan's cognitive implant flickered quietly, overlaying subtle data: faces, alliances, threat levels, shifting power. He moved through the press with practiced ease, feeling the familiar weight of expectation and the constant humming edge of risk. Then a subtle hush swept the room. A ripple, barely perceptible, but undeniable. It was as if the air itself paused. Rowan felt a strange gravitational pull, a tightening of instinct, and turned. She stood among the Vayari, but apart from them, her presence alone seemed to bend the room around her. She was tall, poised, her bearing regal, as though she were accustomed to drawing every eye and holding it. Waves of vibrant purple hair cascaded over her shoulders, catching the shifting light, and her skin was luminous, smooth and pale as the curve of a new moon. But it was her eyes that held him, golden, bright as sunrise, flecked with iridescence, both ancient and searching. She approached, her movement measured, deliberate. When she spoke, her voice was velvet, low and unhurried, cutting through the ambient noise and finding him with uncanny precision. Envoy Blake, I've heard much about you. Rowan accepted her outstretched hand, masking his curiosity behind a diplomatic smile. Her fingers were cool, the touch lingering just a heartbeat longer than the custom demanded, enough to spark a faint electric thrill that ran up his arm. Only the best, I hope, Rowan replied, holding her gaze, noting the subtle way she searched his face. She inclined her head, a gesture of practiced grace. I've reviewed your dealings with the Seldrin Accord. Impressive, for a civilization so new to the galactic stage. Rowan's smile sharpened, just enough to suggest both amusement and warning. The Accord misjudged humanity's adaptability, a common error among the old powers. A faint smile tugged at the corners of her mouth, inscrutable and almost teasing. Do you believe we see humans as inferior? He leaned in, voice softening. Don't you? The Vayari Council denied our membership 4 times. Your records cite our developmental volatility. She looked away for a split second, barely a flicker, but enough for Rowan's implant to register the shift in her micro-expressions. Politics rarely reveals its true motives, she said, her tone carefully neutral, but the golden in her eyes flashed with something that might have been regret. Across the atrium, Rowan caught the briefest glance from Director Sato, a barely perceptible nod, the agreed signal. This was her. The infamous Lysian agent, the one intelligence had whispered about for years, the shadow at the center of several high-profile sabotages. Rowan's heart rate steadied, focus tightening. "Perhaps we could speak somewhere more private," he suggested, setting his glass aside. The phrase was gentle, but his posture left no doubt. He was leading, not following. She regarded him for a moment, then her lips curved in approval. "The garden terrace has a view worth sharing," she agreed, her voice lowering just enough to send a current of anticipation through Rowan's nerves. She gestured for him to follow, her steps silent and assured. As they moved through the crowd, Rowan tapped his concealed transmitter, voice barely above a whisper. "Sato, she's made contact. Proceeding." The reply came as a brief pulse of static, acknowledgement, then silence. They emerged onto the terrace, the city sprawling below in 1,000 ribbons of light. The glass arch above revealed stars scattered across the black, distant but beckoning. The air was cool, tinged with the scent of engineered blooms, but closer to Rowan was something else, a trace of exotic spice and ozone, the signature of Veyari pheromones. She leaned against the railing, her silhouette outlined by starlight. "Magnificent, isn't it?" she asked, her gaze roaming the horizon. "Stunning," Rowan replied, letting his eyes linger on her, not the city. "We fought to earn our place among those stars. Maybe too fiercely." She glanced at him, her expression unexpectedly soft. "Your people mastered interstellar travel less than a century ago, yet you demand parity." "You move fast. We're impatient," Rowan said, an edge of pride in his voice. "We don't wait for permission." Her laughter was low, melodic, a sound that seemed both amused and approving. "Is that why you're here, Envoy? To demand change?" Rowan studied her, noting the subtle shifts in her posture, the careful guard she kept even as she flirted. "I want to know why the Veyari Council fears human progress enough to undermine our efforts." He watched her eyes, searching for the truth in their shifting gold. She looked away, just for a heartbeat, then back. "The Veyari have endured for millennia. We don't fear a species still divided by its own factions." "Then why send your most skilled envoy?" he pressed, voice lowering. She arched a single brow, the movement both challenging and elegant. For a moment the mask slipped, her features softened, an almost flirtatious spark lighting her eyes. She reached out, straightening his lapel with fingers that lingered at his collar, her breath warm against his skin. "If I were here to undermine you, Rowan Blake, you'd never know it." A smile curved his lips, genuine this time, a flicker of intrigue rising in him despite the risks. "I look forward to the challenge, Miss Sira." He caught her hand, steady but gentle, his thumb brushing against her knuckles. "Join me for the rest of the evening?" "I find myself unexpectedly fascinated by Veyari diplomacy." Her pupils widened, the gold of her irises gleaming, reflecting the city lights and something more elusive, curiosity, perhaps, or anticipation. "With pleasure, Envoy. This summit just became far more intriguing." As they drifted back toward the reception, side by side, Rowan felt the boundaries between adversary and ally begin to blur. For the first time in years, the night shimmered with promise, and the future, uncertain, perilous, electric, beckoned. 3 days later, Sira visited Rowan's quarters, officially to discuss cultural protocols, though both knew the stakes: win trust, access secrets, complete her mission before the decisive vote. She stood in the anteroom, her bearing as elegant as ever, but tonight she wore less of the diplomat's mask. Her hair, still the impossible shade of twilight, cascaded freely, and her eyes roamed Rowan's space with the careful curiosity of someone who catalogued everything. The walls shimmered with interactive displays: Earth's major cities, Saturn's storms, old mission badges preserved in glass. A low table separated two chairs, and on it waited a carafe of crystalline liquor, faceted glasses catching the artificial starlight. Rowan poured the spirit, its pale amber swirling. "Careful. It's potent, even for Vayari," he said, offering her a glass. Sira accepted, her fingers brushing his. Cool, deliberate, lingering just long enough for intent to register. "I'm surprised you keep off-world spirits," she replied, examining the liquid, the glass's cut edges refracting lines of light across her skin. "Most humans prefer their own." He watched her, a slight smile at the corners of his mouth. "I've learned to appreciate new perspectives. It makes for better negotiation." He gestured toward the window, the view immense, Saturn's rings painting shifting gold and blue across the glass. She followed, standing closer than protocol allowed, close enough that Rowan could sense her breath, the faint trace of spice and ozone that always clung to her. "What have you learned about Vayari?" she asked, voice low. He turned to her, the city's light catching in his eyes. "Call me Rowan. Formalities are unnecessary now." His tone softened, and for a moment, the tension between them bent into something almost tender. "Your people value order and legacy. You resist outside influence, even when you say otherwise." She sipped, the spirit burning clean down her throat, eyes searching his for signs of weakness, but he held her gaze, steady, open, inviting her to see more. Yet humans push into the galactic fold, demanding what others waited centuries for. Rowan's eyes narrowed, just a hint, as if weighing her words. "Is that why I'm a target?" he asked softly, his voice barely above a whisper. Sira smiled, a slow, practiced curve of lips that hinted at amusement but gave nothing away. "That's a bold claim." He set his glass down, facing her fully. "Not a claim. An observation. 3 human envoys dead, all working the expansion agreement, all with Lycian markers." He watched for a flicker of guilt, a subtle shift. Anything. But she was unreadable, a master at the game. "If the Lycians wanted you gone, immunity wouldn't protect you." Her tone was cool, but Rowan detected a ripple beneath the surface, something like admiration. "I know," Rowan replied, stepping a shade closer. "Which is why your assignment interests me." The light from Saturn's rings danced across Sira's face, making her skin seem to glow. She tilted her head, curiosity sparking in her golden eyes. "Maybe I volunteered because I find human ambition compelling." Rowan's lips twitched, the edge of a genuine smile emerging. "And what have you found?" His hand brushed hers as he reached for her empty glass, fingers grazing in a silent question. She hesitated, just a moment, before surrendering the glass. "That you're not what I expected," she admitted, the words slipping out more honestly than she intended. Her voice, usually so precise, was softer now, almost vulnerable. He turned away, crossing to a console set into the wall, the surface glowing beneath his palm. "Would you like to see something few outsiders have?" Rowan gestured toward his secure terminal, the offer hanging in the air. A test, a lure, and perhaps a gesture of trust. Sira nodded, stepping close, her attention sharpened. With a flick of his wrist, Rowan brought up a set of schematics. Lines and arcs, dense with notation, Earth's defense networks rendered in luminous blue. "These are Earth's proposed defense networks. The Council believes they're weapons." He watched her closely, tracking her eyes as they roved over every detail. Sira memorized the data in a glance, the mental capture near instantaneous. "But they're for protection?" she asked, her tone measured, probing. Exactly, Rowan said quietly. We're explorers, not conquerors. Not this time. She turned, arms folding as she considered him. Your governments mistrust one another. There are fractures in every alliance, even within your own delegation. Why should I trust you? Rowan let his hand rest lightly on her shoulder, his touch gentle but resolute. Trust is earned. I'm willing to try. For a moment the air changed, sharpening, intensifying, the weight of secrets giving way to a more delicate tension. Their faces were close, the unspoken possibilities between them palpable. Sira's composure returned first, her golden eyes regaining their playful, enigmatic glint. Perhaps we can continue this over dinner tomorrow, my sweet. I'll prepare Vayari cuisine. The invitation was more than diplomatic. It was a challenge, and perhaps a step towards something unexpected. I'd enjoy that, Rowan replied, his hand sliding down her arm, lingering at her wrist. Their gazes locked, and for a heartbeat, the truce between them felt fragile, almost intimate. Sira stepped away, her posture once more the consummate envoy. She let herself out with a nod, her scent lingering in the air. Spice, ozone, a promise of complications to come. After the door sighed shut, Rowan crossed to his desk and keyed in a secure line. Director Sato's voice answered, crisp and alert. Status? She took the bait, Rowan reported, voice low. She's seen the decoy files. We'll track her contacts. Sato's reply was immediate. And if she tries to eliminate you? Rowan watched Saturn's storms swirling in the window, their violence distant and strangely beautiful. She won't. Not yet. She's curious. And so am I. He let the connection fade, stood in the dim, ring-lit silence. Tonight, the stakes had changed. Sira had seen what he wanted her to see, and the next move would be hers, in her domain. In this game, the first to reveal the truth would lose, and Rowan Blake had never lost. The Unity Ball was the summit's turning point. Light refracted from floating crystals, scattering rainbows across polished marble and the faces of diplomats who carried centuries of ambition in their eyes. The grand hall thrummed with the subdued energy of alliances on the cusp of change. Laughter, music, and the rustle of elegant fabrics formed a backdrop for the night's unspoken negotiations. Sira entered with the Vayari delegation, her presence commanding immediate attention. Her gown shimmered with iridescent hues, the fabric flowing like liquid starlight around her tall, poised frame. As she moved, heads turned, and the crowd's conversation faltered, if only for a heartbeat. Confidence radiated from her, but tonight her smile was not merely diplomatic. It was genuine, touched by anticipation. Rowan approached from the opposite side of the ballroom, his charcoal suit tailored to flawless precision. He cut through the crowd with the quiet authority of someone who knew how to wield power without raising his voice. When he reached Sira, his gaze swept over her, admiration undisguised. You look radiant, Rowan said, letting the words settle between them, softer than the music. Sira's eyes gleamed with a mixture of amusement and warmth. And you're surprisingly dashing for a Terran, she replied, her smile curving into something real, not rehearsed. He extended his arm, the invitation formal but his eyes playful. Shall we? She placed her hand in the crook of his elbow, allowing herself a moment of contact, and together they entered the current of the ball. They moved through circles of ambassadors and officials, Rowan shifting seamlessly between languages and customs, greeting Seldrin, Lycian, and Vayari alike with equal ease. Sira watched him closely, noting the subtle shifts in his demeanor, how his posture adapted, how his tone softened or sharpened as required. He was, she realized, not just a survivor of the galactic stage, but a master of it. Adaptation is humanity's strength, Rowan remarked, his hand resting gently at the small of her back, lingering a fraction longer than etiquette demanded. Sira leaned in, her voice pitched low for his ears alone. "You wield it well. The old powers underestimate you." He smiled, the edges of his mask slipping to reveal something honest. "They won't for much longer." For a time, the ball flowed around them, dancers moving in intricate patterns, music swelling, the future of 19 worlds balanced on polite conversation and shared glances. But then, the atmosphere shifted. A subtle tightening, a tremor in the undercurrent of sound. Suddenly, armored figures burst through the side doors, weapons drawn, faces obscured by mirrored visors. The music died mid-note. The crowd's gasp was almost drowned by the harsh crackle of energy weapons charging. "Down!" Rowan barked, his reflexes honed by years of uncertainty. He pulled Sira behind a marble pillar just as searing bolts of energy tore through the space they'd occupied. Crystal shards rained to the floor, spinning rainbows into chaos. Security personnel responded instantly, drawing sidearms and forming a protective line, but the attackers were organized, moving with ruthless precision. Their targets were clear: expansion advocates, human and alien alike, those who threatened the old balance. One of the attackers, moving with calculated menace, advanced straight for Rowan, weapon raised. Sira's training surfaced. She broke from cover with a movement so fluid it seemed almost choreographed, intercepting the attacker. Her palm struck the weapon aside, her other hand driving into the armored figure's throat seam with surgical precision. He crumpled, weapon skittering across the marble. Rowan's cognitive implant flared to life, data cascading across his vision. He calculated trajectories, marked friend and foe, then surged forward. He ducked beneath a wild blast, closing with another assailant and using the force of the man's momentum to throw him off balance. With a sharp twist, Rowan neutralized the threat, his movements efficient, almost brutal. The firefight was brief, but intense. When the last attacker fell, the music was gone, replaced by the sharp scent of scorched air and the rapid pulse of alarms. Delegates huddled behind shattered tables, security fanned out to secure the perimeter, and in the center of the chaos, Rowan and Sira stood together, breathing hard, adrenaline still crackling between them. Rowan reached for Sira, his eyes scanning her for injury. He noticed a thin scratch tracing her cheekbone, a stark line against her pale skin. He brushed his thumb gently along its edge. "Are you hurt?" he asked, voice low, concern raw and unguarded. Sira touched the scratch, surprise flickering in her eyes, not at the injury, but at the realization that her first instinct had been to shield Rowan, not herself. It clashed with everything she'd been sent to do. Yet, in that moment, she didn't regret it. "No," she replied, voice steadier than she felt. Their eyes met, a silent conversation passing between them. Sira stepped back first, regaining her composure as security swept in and medics tended to the wounded. Rowan took charge, issuing orders, his presence anchoring the fractured calm. Later, when the chaos had receded and the ballroom was a landscape of broken glass and shaken dignitaries, Rowan found Sira in a quiet alcove off the main hall. The city lights beyond the window painted her in soft gold and violet. She looked out, lost in thought, until his reflection joined hers in the glass. "That wasn't random," Rowan said, keeping his voice gentle but insistent. "They targeted expansion advocates, including you. Why did you protect me?" Sira turned, her gaze sharp, searching his face for accusation or perhaps hope. "Perhaps I'm not done with our discussions," she replied, the words half truth, half challenge. "There are things left unsaid." Rowan's lips curved, the warmth in his eyes unmistakable. "I hope we'll have more, without interruptions." She watched him as he returned to the heart of the ballroom, coordinating security, calm in crisis. Something in his steadiness unsettled her, echoing in the place where her loyalty to her mission met the beginnings of something else. Later, away from prying eyes, Sira activated her encrypted comlink. The hollow projection shimmered, resolving into the angular features of Commander Lyra, her handler. "The attack wasn't authorized?" Sira asked, her voice clipped. Commander Lyra's eyes narrowed, calculating. "No, but it's useful. The human will trust you more." Sira hesitated, her gaze flickering to the window, where Rowan directed the investigation, his silhouette illuminated by emergency lights. "Yes," she agreed, her voice softening. The line disconnected, but Sira did not move, watching Rowan for a long moment. Something inside her shifted, subtle and irrevocable. She wondered, not for the first time, what would happen when her mission's end arrived. A week after the attack, Rowan's security doubled. Every corridor now bristled with surveillance nodes and armored personnel. Yet Sira still had access to his private suite, a fact that did not escape her, nor the intelligence officers tracking every movement within Solaris' spire. Trust had grown between them, delicately woven from calculated gestures, genuine connection, and necessity. Tonight, Sira told herself, would be the night she completed her mission. She would retrieve the files as Rowan slept. But first, there was the ritual of evening, the comfort of shared silence, the slow burn of conversation, the sense that the world outside had faded, if only for a little while. Rowan poured whiskey into 2 glasses, the amber liquid catching the dim light. He handed one to Sira, his fingers brushing hers, lingering for just a moment. "The attackers targeted treaty supporters, but failed to kill anyone," Rowan said, swirling his glass. His tone was thoughtful, but his eyes were sharp, reflecting the city's distant glow. "Too skilled to miss, unless it was a distraction." Sira studied him, her own mask carefully in place. "Or a warning," she suggested, stepping closer. The air between them was charged, their mutual awareness crackling beneath the surface. "Or cover for something else." Rowan's gaze was unwavering, cutting through the haze of pretense. "What do you think they wanted us to overlook?" She hesitated, then leaned in, her hand rising to cup his cheek. She searched his face for weakness, for some sign that he would falter first. Instead, she found herself drawn in, her defenses crumbling in the face of his vulnerability. "I find myself distracted by you," she admitted, her voice lower than she intended. "It's unexpected." Rowan's expression softened, the wariness in his eyes melting into something open, unguarded. He leaned in, closing the final distance between them, and kissed her, genuine, hungry, with a need that was no longer a tactic but the truth neither had wanted to acknowledge. Desire sparked between them, honest and unplanned. Later, as the city drifted toward midnight and Rowan slept beside her, Sira slipped from the bed. Her movements were silent, efficient, every gesture calculated for stealth. She retrieved a DNA sample from Rowan's discarded glass, just enough to bypass his biometric security. The terminal responded to her touch, screens blooming with classified files. Sira's pulse quickened as she navigated through Earth's military data, searching for the evidence her superiors demanded. Then she found something unexpected. A hidden folder, encrypted deeper than the rest. Surveillance logs, images and records of Lycian operations, her own face, captured on security feeds, annotated in Rowan's hand. A final file labeled Project Eclipse revealed the truth. Rowan had known her identity from the start. He had played her, just as she had played him. She froze, absorbing the implications. The anger that flared within her was complicated by confusion, a sense of betrayal, but also reluctant admiration. Had he orchestrated everything? Or was he as much a pawn as she was? "Find what you needed?" Rowan's voice cut through the darkness. He stood in the doorway, wearing only a robe, his eyes fully awake and alert. Sira straightened, her hand hovering near her concealed weapon. "You knew," she said, her voice trembling with anger and something dangerously close to hurt. "Yes." Rowan didn't move, his stance relaxed but ready. "Just as you knew your orders." She considered her options: fight, flee, lie. But Rowan was prepared for each. The tension stretched between them, thick with unresolved questions. "Why keep up the act?" she demanded. "I needed to know who's pulling the strings," Rowan replied. "The kill order didn't come from your council. Someone's playing both sides." Sira's mind worked rapidly, piecing together what she had seen. "You have proof?" Rowan stepped closer, his robe shifting with the movement. "The real question is, what will you do with it?" For the first time since arriving at the summit, Sira hesitated. Her loyalty wavered, the certainty that had propelled her faltering in the face of Rowan's challenge. Slowly, she lowered her hand from her weapon, signaling her choice. "Show me," she said, her voice rough but resolute. Rowan returned to the terminal, entering a code only he could know. Encrypted logs appeared, branching connections illuminated in harsh blue light. Sira leaned in, reading the headers. Commander Lyra, High Minister Varek, Director Hall on Earth. The lines between them were undeniable. Collaboration, covert communication, payments routed through untraceable accounts. "They're collaborating to sabotage the treaty," Rowan said quietly, his voice heavy with the weight of revelation. "If our peoples go to war, the Seldrin will profit," Sira concluded, the pieces falling into place. The attacks, the sabotage, even her mission, it had all been manipulated from the shadows. "We've both been used," Rowan admitted, stepping back to let her process the truth. Her calm chimed, a sharp, insistent tone. Commander Lyra's face flickered on the encrypted display. Sira stared at it, then silenced the call, turning her back on her handler for the first time. "Why trust me with this?" she asked Rowan, her tone softer, uncertainty bleeding through the edges. He moved closer, close enough that she could see the exhaustion and hope in his eyes. "Because I see you. The way you look at me is the way I look at you." Something inside her broke, a final layer of armor falling away. She let herself believe him. They kissed again, this time honest and raw, the urgency of their circumstances giving way to something deeper. When they parted, Sira made her choice. "What now?" she asked, her voice trembling with the enormity of what she was about to do. "We keep up appearances, gather evidence against Hall and Varek," Rowan answered, determination sharpening his features. "It's dangerous," she warned, the reality of their position settling in her bones. "We'll need absolute trust." "No more secrets," Sira agreed. She was afraid, but her resolve was clear. The comm chimed again, Commander Lyra's voice slicing through the quiet. "Your extraction window is 48 hours. Complete your mission." Sira muted the call and met Rowan's eyes. "We have 2 days before someone else tries to finish what I started." Rowan's expression was grim but resolute. "Then let's make them count," he said. Together, they began to plan, united not just by necessity, but by the fragile, hard-won trust that had grown between them in the shadow of betrayal. An emergency session convened. Tension sizzled in the air, thick as static, as the delegates filed into the assembly chamber. Security was tighter than ever. Rows of armored guards flanked the entrance, their visors reflecting the nervous faces of politicians who understood that history might turn on the next hour. Rowan paced outside the doors, evidence case in hand, mind racing through contingencies. Director Sato appeared at his side, voice low and urgent. "You're trusting her with this? With everything we've uncovered?" Rowan's jaw clenched. He didn't hesitate. I have to, he replied, scanning the corridor for Sira. She's risked as much as I have, maybe more. Sato sighed, but the trust between them was earned in war and years of negotiation. If this goes wrong, I know, Rowan said, but if we hold back now, they win. A hush fell as Sira entered, flanked by two silent Lycian operatives. Gone was the shadowy envoy. Tonight, she wore the sharp-cut uniform of an official delegate. Her eyes met Rowan's, a flicker of something tender passing before she masked it with protocol. She drew close, voice barely audible. My people question my loyalty, Sira murmured. Lyra's agents are watching every move. If I step out of line, then we stick to the plan, Rowan interrupted, opening the biometric lock on the evidence case. A holographic display flickered into life, revealing layers of encrypted data, logs, and communications. Once this goes public, there's no going back. Sira's hand landed on his arm, grounding him. I contacted Mira in Vayari Intelligence. If she's loyal, she'll bring more proof. But I can't guarantee. He covered her hand with his. We'll improvise. We always do. A chime announced the session. The assembly hall was a mosaic of cultures. Vayari silver, Terran blue, Lycian crimson, delegates murmuring, glancing nervously at the guards. At the front, High Minister Varek conferred with Director Hall, their alliance suddenly fragile. Sira faded into the periphery, eyes darting for Mira's signal. Rowan took the dais, voice projected over the hall. Honored representatives, I bring evidence of a plot to destroy peace and provoke war among our worlds. The murmurs grew louder, then stilled as he activated the case. Holograms rotated above his head. Intercepted messages, payment records, and tactical orders. The room's mood shifted as the weight of proof became undeniable. From her vantage, Sira watched Hall's face transform, smug assurance giving way to alarm. A Vayari delegate, subtle as a shadow, slipped from his seat and vanished through a side door. Sira recognized him. Varek's personal courier. The game was on. As Rowan detailed the connections, money flowing from Seldran interests, coordinated sabotage orders, the cross-planetary links. Sira kept her focus, but her thoughts spun. Mira's message never came. Hall and Varek would move quickly now, desperate. When the session adjourned, the chamber exploded with argument. Rowan met Sira's gaze across the crowd, signaling for her to leave first. In her quarters, Sira's comm flickered, bearing the cold signature of a high-security channel. She hesitated, then opened it. The message was chilling, unsigned but unmistakably Lyra's. You've been compromised. Agent Rin is en route to finish your assignment and extract you. Cooperate or be marked hostile. A cold knot formed in Sira's stomach. She moved quickly, disabling her locator, then found Rowan in a quiet maintenance corridor, away from the cacophony. She kept her voice low. Rin is here. He won't hesitate. Rowan's eyes narrowed, his implant flaring in his iris. We need to move. Sato has a safe location in the sublevels. We'll regroup and plan our next move there. They moved through the labyrinthine service corridors, footsteps echoing against metal and glass. Alarms began to sound somewhere above, a signal perhaps that the plot was already unraveling. Rowan squeezed Sira's hand, a silent promise in the gesture. You realize what this means, Sira said as they hurried. I've crossed the line. If I'm caught, so have I, Rowan replied. Seems we both found something worth betraying for. A shadow detached from the gloom ahead. A tall, broad-shouldered figure in tactical armor, helmet gleaming with Lycian insignia. Rin's voice echoed cold and metallic. Sira, compromised by a human. Disappointing. Sira stepped in front of Rowan, pushing him aside just as a dart zipped past where his head had been a moment before, embedding itself in the wall with a hiss. We're being used, Rin, she called, shifting into a balanced stance, her every movement measured, ready. Rin advanced, weapon raised. Your orders were clear. You've allowed sentiment to cloud your judgment. Stand aside. Rowan activated his implant, sending a burst of interference at Rin's visor, momentarily blinding him. You'll have to go through both of us, Rowan said, calm and resolute. Rin fired another dart, but Sira dodged, closing the gap with Vayari-trained speed. She blocked his arm, twisted, and drove her palm into the weak point of his armor. Rin staggered, but he was strong and trained. He swung at Rowan, who ducked and retaliated with a precise blow to Rin's shoulder. Sira caught Rowan's eye, no need for words. They moved together, fighting in perfect tandem. Rin tried to recover, but Rowan's enhancements gave him an edge, drawing Rin's focus. Sira seized the moment, sliding behind Rin and disabling his targeting module with a sharp blow. Rowan landed a final punch, sending Rin sprawling to the ground, unconscious. They stood over the defeated agent, breathless. The corridor was silent except for the distant wail of alarms. You fight like you've studied Vayari martial arts, Sira said, catching her breath, a wry smile tugging at her lips. Rowan grinned, wiping blood from his knuckles. I studied you. They crouched over Rin, searching his gear. Sira found the encrypted comm device, a direct channel to Lyra and, possibly, proof that could finish what they had started. Rowan held the comm up, resolve burning in his eyes. Let's use it. We're not out of moves yet. With the comm in hand, Sira and Rowan turned from the fallen agent, ready to expose the final threads of the conspiracy and face whatever consequences would come. Mira, now acting intelligence chief, arrived covertly with a data slate clutched tight beneath her cloak. She moved with the assurance of someone who had seen too much and survived anyway, her presence a silent testament to shifting allegiances. Sira met her in a shadowed alcove, Rowan and Sato watching for tales. Mira's voice was brisk, her eyes hard. This is everything, she said, passing the slate to Rowan. Direct transmissions between Varek and Hall, credits funneled through Seldrin accounts, cross-confirmed by Vayari intelligence. It's over for them, if you can survive long enough to present it. Sato checked his neural feed, his face grim. Hall has branded you both traitors. There are orders to eliminate you on sight. Vayari agents have been instructed to shoot to kill. We need to present this to the Galactic Council, Rowan insisted, heart pounding as he scrolled through the damning evidence. Bypass both our governments, take it straight to the delegates. Impossible, Sato said, tone clipped. The council is sealed. No admittance for anyone not on the roll call. Sensors, biometrics, phase gates, the works. Sira's eyes narrowed, a small knowing smile flickering at the corner of her mouth. Not every entrance is on the manifest, she said. Maintenance ducts are only monitored for standard species. They're not calibrated for Vayari adaptive cells. Rowan's implant flashed a confirmation, digital overlays mapping the council chamber's substructure. Your unique skin disrupts their sensors, he said, wonder and admiration mingling in his voice. We can use that. They crowded around a portable schematic, devising a plan in whispers. Sato would create a diversion, an explosive breach in the northwest sector's security grid, noisy enough to draw every camera and agent. While chaos erupted topside, Rowan and Sira would crawl through the ducts, circumventing lockdown protocols and bypassing retinal scans. Before splitting up, Rowan pulled Sira aside. The corridor was quiet, save for the distant hum of alarms. He touched her cheek, his voice gentle, steady. This is bigger than us. Sira's skin shimmered gold in the low light, a sign of emotion she rarely revealed. Maybe that's not such a loss, she said. Their hands found each other, fingers entwining, a silent vow forged in danger and hope. They slipped into the ductwork, the metal cool against their palms. Moving in darkness, they worked as one, Rowan disabling laser tripwires with his implant, Sira guiding him around vibration sensors, both of them silent but for quick breaths and soft touches. More than once they paused to neutralize Lyra's agents, silent figures who never saw them coming, dispatched with a whisper and a nerve pinch, left sleeping in the dark. At the end of a twisting, narrow crawl, they reached the final service hatch. Above, the muffled roar of delegates and guards. Inside, the Grand Council chamber, its dais aglow with the gravitas of ancient order. Hall stood at the front, voice ringing with righteous indignation, spinning his narrative to the assembled worlds. Sira squeezed Rowan's hand. "Whatever happens, I have no regrets." He met her gaze, his words a promise. "Nor do I." He hacked the lock, lines of code rippling through his implant, security glyphs breaking one by one. The service door hissed open, and they stepped into the light. "Envoy Blake, this is highly irregular," the moderator protested, rising in alarm as the chamber froze. Rowan kept his head high, his voice unwavering. "Forgive the intrusion, but I have proof of a conspiracy threatening everything we've built here. This evidence—" He held up the data slate as holograms burst above the delegates, displaying intercepted transmissions, payment trails, and covert orders. "Implicates Director Hall and Minister Varek in a plot to sabotage peace and provoke war." Hall's face shifted from outrage to panic. "This is a fabrication," he shouted, but his voice lacked conviction. Sira stepped forward, her posture regal, her eyes burning gold. "I am Sira Vey, Lysian envoy. I was ordered to eliminate Envoy Blake. But my orders were lies. I've been used, as have you." Her words rang through the hall, an admission both damning and liberating. At that moment, the doors opened again. Mira strode in, flanked by Sato and two armored guards, both holding files and hollow projectors. "We can corroborate everything," Mira announced, voice echoing. "Veyari intelligence stands with the evidence. Our own operatives have traced Varek's communications and Hall's payments." Sato stepped forward. "Further, we intercepted a live message from Commander Lyra, confirming the kill order against both Envoy Blake and Sira Vey. The recording is time-stamped, authenticated by 3 independent systems." The moderator pounded her staff, demanding order. Hall's protests faltered as Rowan played the live message, Lyra's cold voice echoing over the assembly. The evidence was overwhelming. The delegates murmured, some in shock, some in anger, all recognizing the gravity of the moment. "Order," the moderator called, her voice resolute. "Director Hall is to be detained immediately. Minister Varek will be investigated by an independent tribunal. The council will reconvene at first light to chart a path forward. Let this serve as a warning. No world is above the law." As the chamber emptied, guards escorting a stunned Hall and a seething Varek from the hall, Rowan and Sira found themselves standing side by side in the suddenly quiet space. The glow of the council chamber softened around them, the weight of danger replaced by a fragile hope. "We did it," Sira whispered, wonder and exhaustion in her voice. Rowan squeezed her hand, his eyes bright. "Now we can build something real. For our worlds. And for us." Later, in Rowan's suite, the quiet was a balm. Sira leaned into him, her walls finally down. "I never imagined betraying my own people," she murmured, voice trembling with relief and uncertainty. "But it feels right." Rowan brushed a strand of purple hair behind her ear. "You're not alone. We're in this together." She looked up, searching his face. "What comes next?" He smiled, warmth radiating from him. "A real evening together. No politics, no lies. Just us." She laughed, unguarded for the first time in weeks. "I'd like that. And after? There's much to repair, but with your insight and my experience, we can do it." "Partners?" "Partners," Sira agreed, sealing the vow with a gentle kiss. Days later, the council reconvened. New faces filled old seats, hope threading through every speech. Rowan and Sira, standing together as living proof that humans and Vayari could work side by side, helped guide the talks. Their romance, born in shadow and subterfuge, became a symbol of trust and possibility for all the worlds watching. On the garden terrace, they stood together, hands entwined, watching the stars scatter across the night. The future stretched out before them, uncertain, but theirs to shape. Sato, now head of security for the new alliance, kept a vigilant eye on all who entered. Mira worked tirelessly, rooting out Varek's supporters and ensuring the council's reforms held. Sira, no longer able to return to her old life, found purpose at Rowan's side, building peace, step by step, world by world. One night, as they gazed at Saturn's rings, Sira nudged Rowan, her smile playful. "Think we'll ever get tired of saving the galaxy?" Rowan laughed, his arm around her. "Not as long as I'm saving it with you." Sira's skin shimmered gold as she kissed him, certainty and hope mingling in the starlight. Together they faced the future, partners, lovers, and architects of a peace that might just endure. That's the end of the story. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and write in the comments what you liked most about this story. Our team will be very grateful to you. You can find even more fascinating stories on our channel. See you in the next video.